Hi, this is Shankar, and again, this is an extempo video since I have the time. I'm making this video, and this is about Venus. Venus as a planet, and what we should keep in mind while dealing with the planet Venus and the predictive aspects of Venus. This is what I'll try to cover in this video. Now, Venus, as we know, is very near to the Earth. It has a great impact on us, and it is a planet which in our system governs the second house and the seventh house. The second house actually represents your jeep, it represents your tongue. So, in a way, it represents the taste and allied factors. The seventh house represents the lower parts, so anything related with lower the stomach, I mean below the stomach part, so anything related with love, relationships, and sex, it is related to Venus. So Venus, as the ruler of second and seventh house, becomes important in terms of identifying what are the pleasures you will get in life. Venus denotes pleasure, Venus denotes enjoyment, Venus denotes what you would get in this life in terms of enjoying it. Remember one thing, that Venus is pleasure, but Venus does not give. The planet which gives, which creates desire, is Mars. We'll deal it in a different horoscope, but understand, Mars is desire and Venus is pleasure. So these are two very important planets in the horoscope. So Venus, remember, it's pleasure. In today's world, it is about a lifestyle. Venus is something which is not live. It does not deal so much with the live things. Property, land is governed by Mars and Saturn, while Venus governs things like cash, it governs things like jewelry, the diamonds. You enjoy in the disco, you eat things and enjoy, you drink things and enjoy. So those are the things which are governed by Venus. Venus is all about sensory pleasures. This is very important to understand. People, mistake Mars with something, Venus with something else, Jupiter with something else. So let's understand, Mars is desire and Venus is the non-live things which we which we have in when we go to seek a pleasure. Now, I've also told Venus governs the second and the seventh house. We all know that Venus, Shukra, is the guru of the Daityas, or the guru of the Asurs, or we call it the guru of the demons. So one should understand that Venus is dealing with Asur, Rakshas, and demons. But one thing one should always be very careful when analyzing and doing astrology is that in all our mythology also, when the churning of the Kshir Sagar was done, both the Asur and the Dev, they churned it, and when they churned it, then out of the Kshir Sagar, a lot of good things like the medicines, money, wealth, jewelry, and so much things came out of the Kshir Sagar. And the Kshir Sagar the churning was done by both the devil, the Asurs, and the Devtas. So understand this thing. If you have in an horoscope, the impact what this horoscope will give will both depend on the positive planets as well as the negative planets. When the two planets cooperate with each other, then and when the right churning happens, then the beautiful things happen in your life. You get what you want and you enjoy what you want. So this is what has to be seen while we deal with planets. The positive and the negative planets, are they cooperating with each other or not, and is the churning takes place? There has to be a churning, मंथन होना चाहिए. जब मंथन होगा, और मंथन कैसे होगा, जब दोनों हो, हमारे जो देविक planets हैं and the asuric planets, they cooperate, and when they cooperate, then your horoscope becomes very powerful. Now let us understand, I'm not going to explain too much about Venus in terms of what it represents, which I briefly told. Let us understand what is the, how do we see Venus? What is the impact of Venus? Now Venus is, remember, I've told it's the lordship of second and the seventh house. Venus is the Karaka. What is important when we do Nadi astrology, I've seen what is important is the Karak of the house. So Venus represents the fourth house as a Karak. It's the Karak for fourth house, and fourth house is nothing but pleasure, enjoyment, sensory enjoyment, and seventh house is about a marriage. One should always see where Venus is placed. Whenever Venus is placed in Lagna, the seventh house and the 10th house, it tends to give good results. In Kendras, it tends to get good results. Of course, it has to be modified depending on the conjunction of the planet and the sign which it is placed in. And Venus, one thing more important is today Venus is what is we call unethical money, the money which is not taxed, the money which we earn by thinking out of the box, or what we call is the black money. So Venus is also the karak of black money. If you have to see somebody's black money, see if the person is earning black money, see where Venus is placed. Whenever Venus is in the first, seventh, and 10th, not the fourth house. When Venus is in fourth house, it will, it will destroy a lot of good things which represent pleasure, because bhavanashak, it's the it being there. I mean, that I will not go into technicalities. So Venus in first, seventh, and 10th tends to indicates that the person could have black money. You have to see a lot of other things. While Venus, when it is in fifth, when it is in ninth, and when it is in 11th, it doesn't show too much of, it doesn't really show that people are going out of the box or out of the way to, earn money, save money, or to keep money which is besides it. So that is what is important. Now, one thing which you have to understand while trying to analyze Venus is where Venus is placed. Now, whenever Venus is placed 12th from its Karak house, which is 4th and 7th, whenever Venus is placed 12th from 4th to 7th, remember, therefore, when Venus is in 3rd and when Venus is in 6th, it does not tend to give good results. Venus in the 3rd house and Venus in the 6th house, because it is 12th from its Karak. I mean, it's the Kartatva of the 4th and 7th house. So whenever Venus is placed in the 3rd and 6th house, it does not tend to give good results. Similarly, Venus is the Karak of 7th house. And whenever Venus is placed in 12th, which is 6th from 7th, actually it will give a lot of problems in relationships. It will give breakup in relationships. It will make you to get into a relationship, enjoy it, but you do not get the desired result. So whenever Venus is in 12th house, it becomes 6th from the 7th, it creates problem. And whenever it is in the 2nd house, it becomes 8th from the 7th. So in the case of a male horoscope, whenever Venus is in the 2nd house, it will create problems for the wife. She'll have a tough life. She will have to undergo kind of issues and problems which affect the marital life or the happiness in marital life. So, and in the case of female, when Venus is placed from 8th to 7th, it may give a tendency of having, getting attracted to the negative things of life. So, I mean, it does not mean that you see this and you start predicting it. You have to see that, what is the impact on Venus, whether Venus is getting impacted with other negative planets, what is the sign, and how does it, play with the 2nd and 12th planets, which are, or the planets which are around Venus. So that is what is, you have to see Venus while you are doing prediction, and these things always are important. Another important thing is, a very misnomer is there that Venus in 12th house is excellent. I have seen a lot of horoscopes where Venus in the 12th house gives you a sense of enjoyment, gives you a tendency of getting into a pleasure mode. It also will give you pleasure, but at the end of the day, it will not give you satisfaction from whatever relationship you've had, or whatever the way you've enjoyed. It will not give you that, because what is the 12th house? 12th house is the subconscious mind. It is something which is, first house is the front part of your head, and 12th is always the back part of your head. It's thing which you cannot see. So something which cannot be seen, which is beyond your imagination. It is beyond what is written in your DNA information system. When Venus is there, it makes a person a different kind of thinker, and it will make him indulge into actions which are different in nature, and all will lead to, as far as the world is concerned at least, it will lead to a perception that he is not enjoyed, it is frustrating. Maybe that person gets into a spiritual mode or gets into a mode of understanding. That's besides the point. So that is a myth about Venus, which I would like to say. Now, Venus is a planet, wherever it's placed, it talks about, its enjoyment, pleasure. So wherever house is placed, it gives a tendency of that person to go and have the pleasure from that particular house where it is placed. Like whenever Venus is placed in 6th house, Remember, uh, remember, whenever Venus is placed in the sixth house, the person will have diseases, but he will say, he's enjoying the disease. There will be a tendency of him to get into diseases, deaths, but there will be a factor of enjoyment which is there. One thing which I've also seen, that Venus, whenever it is in the eighth house, it will actually increase longevity. Whenever Venus is in the eighth house, it will increase longevity, and the reason being that eighth house is a house which I will discuss in some other horoscope, is all about your life. It is the starting of your life. The fifth from eighth, which is the 12th house, is the house which is beyond life. So I'll discuss that in some other horoscope, but in some other video. But Venus in the eighth house, you know makes you to enjoy life. Venus, whenever it is related with eighth house, is also a very important factor for name and fame. Whenever Venus get associated with eighth house, with a lot of it in fact gets associated with lagna, and Venus is also a part of it, it will have the person remembered post his life. He will have a name and fame for himself. Now the quantum of name, the quantum of fame, and for what time depends on a lot of other things, the dasha, the strength of the planets, so on and so forth. So Venus in 8th is very good. Venus in 11th, the person is not satisfied. Whenever Venus is in 3rd, 6th and 11th, I've seen any planets which are in these houses, in fact, they tend a person to be thinking a lot and working mentally, but actually not going after the thing. So that's what I've seen, what happens when you are in this 3, 6 and 11th houses, is upchay houses, that is, which comes later. They come later. So it's an house which actually these houses, until they're not supported by other aspects and a good conjunctions, they are planets which actually make a person a little lethargic, and a person who's thinking of doing but cannot do, is not satisfied mentally, they keep on running. So that's what happens with these houses, which again, I'm going deviating from the point. Now that's how you to analyze Venus in 8th house. Similarly, Venus in the 7th house, Venus in 7th house may not be good for marriage, but Venus in 7th house is very good for partnership, is very good for business, it is very good for relationships. I know horoscope of a multi billionaire who has an exchange of Venus and Mars, and they are 7th and 8th house, a very powerful exchange. He's got a Libra lagna, and then there is an exchange of Mars and Venus in 7th and 8th house. So he's person is destined to do good business, and he's destined to be remembered in his even after his lifetime. So Venus in 7th house may create problems in marriage. He may not be able to devote time in marriage, whatever it is. It depends on how Venus is, what is the lordship of the planet. Because I give most important thing I give importance is to the lordship of the planet. Then what are the planets which are placed in the particular house, and then the Kar Tattva. These are 3 important things. Aspects are important, but they only provide energy of impact, some energy. They cannot be considered as equivalent to conjunction. So that is what is important. And I have already told you that Venus is all about desire, Venus is all about pleasure, and Mars is all about desire. So a combination of Mars and Venus is very good, as when it comes to you have a desire and you are going to have the pleasure of those desires. So Mars and Venus combination, which is condemned, or exchange of Mars and Venus which is condemned, should not be condemned as far as today's yuga is concerned, because it is what gives you the energy, it gives a desire, and to fulfill it, the pleasure comes from Venus. So Mars and Venus is good in that aspect, but again, it may create issues as far as your relationship with the opposite sex is concerned. If Mars is debilitated, you'll have problem in saying no, so you'll get into more relationships. If it is with other planets like planets of multiplicity, it will create other kinds of issues. But these planets are this conjunction is very good for fulfillment of your desires, and Venus has the capacity to enjoy the pleasure out of it. Now, I'm not going to a spiritual, it's not a spiritual this thing. We have to see it in today's. Everybody wants to enjoy pleasure. So, Mars Venus is a very important combination. I've also tried to explain you how do you see the impact of Mars in seventh house? Venus in seventh house. Venus, when it is in seventh house, may not be good for marriage. You may not have the time for marriage. You may not, so many things can depend upon, but it is good as for business. So that is how you have to see, analyze a Venus. Now, Venus conjunction with Mars, I've tried to explain. It's a very dear thing to my heart, and I've seen a lot of horoscopes. Venus and Mars in today's world is very important for depends upon where it is placed. I've also explained about Venus in 12th house, 3rd and 6th house. It has its issues, but now let's come to Venus in conjunction with Rahu. And Venus, as its role as far as medicine is concerned, Venus is a planet which in our system governs all the juices. All the vital juices which are produced, which are harmonized, which actually produce the semens. I mean, it is produced with, as they say, with the best of the juices and very intricate juices by which the semens are placed. So a lot of hormones which are produced and then thrown out of the body is governed by Venus. So this is a very important aspect of Venus. And Venus being the lord of 2nd and 7th house in the Kalpurush, it actually in a way also signifies death, and it also signifies your alternate to death. It's a planet which is a doctor. It is a planet which is Sanjeevani. It is a planet which knows how to cure. So if Venus is well placed, it can actually make you a big doctor. If Venus is with Rahu, it can make you a doctor, and they are within 5-6 degrees of conjunction with the Rahu behind Venus. It can actually make you a person which can think out of the box. You can become a scientist. You can do things which have not been done till now, and you can really do good for the society. But that is Venus Rahu one aspect. But the other aspect of Venus and Rahu is it can also make you a tendency towards extramarital relationships. It can give you tendency towards having pleasure in a different way. It can also make you a little deceitful by nature, cunning, a tactful person by nature. So these are things, if again it was not expected by a good planet like Jupiter, etc. Venus Rahu has this problem. Venus with Ketu Ketu is a planet which dissects, which takes the things away. So Venus with Ketu can give you a kind of a thought process that I'm not, marriage is not for me, relationships are not for me, business partnerships are not for me. I've seen it all. Let me go deep into it and let me cut away from it. So Venus and Ketu can give you that impact. If Ketu dissects, Ketu divides. So it can give you those kinds of issues. Now, depending on male and female horoscope, it will have a different analogy to it. Venus and Saturn are very good friends, and in the lagna of Saturn, Venus is a Rajyokarat, and vice versa. So Venus and Saturn have a very important role to play, and the important role to play between Venus and Saturn is that Venus is, I told you, it's enjoyment, pleasure. What do you get? What do you have? How do you feel? And once everything is over, Venus says, now Saturn, take care of it. So it's also a situation where Venus and Saturn actually show that after having a lot of pleasure, enjoying a lot of pleasure, Saturn says, now let me take you to the path of spirituality. And have a look at Saturn and Venus when they are placed 6-8 to themselves. That is, Venus and Saturn is 6-8 to themselves. I've seen a lot of horoscopes where people enjoy, where people get a lot of pleasure from things, but suddenly, something happens and then they walk off from the life and go to a different mode altogether. So that is what Venus Saturn 6-8 does. Now Venus Saturn 212 in our Bhrigu system, we consider all the planets traveling together. I mean, traveling ahead and front of it. So whichever planet is in front between 2 and 12, that will give its results first. Suppose Venus is in Aries and Saturn is in Pisces. First the result of Venus will come, and then the result of Saturn will come. If Saturn is in Aries and Venus is in Pisces, first the results of Saturn will come, and then the results of Venus will come. So it's like the Nadi system. We see the planets as if, they're walking and they're talking and they're meeting and they're energizing. And it's a play of planets, it's the play of the signs, it is the play of the planets rotating, and it's a play of planets in various nakshatra. So that is how you have to see the Venus and Saturn relationship also, as I explained to you. As far as 2 and 12 is concerned, whenever Venus is in a 311 kind of a situation, Venus and Saturn is in 311 kind of situation, there is a kind the person makes a lot of efforts to get gains. It's not a bad situation, it's actually a good situation where a person makes a lot of efforts to get the gains. Again, it depends which planet is ahead. Venus is ahead of Saturn or Saturn is ahead of Venus. Now this is a very deep subject, but I've tried to explain you certain things like the 212 situation, 312 situation, a 6-8 situation, taking Venus and Saturn into consideration. Similarly, you can analyze every planet like this, and you should analyze see Venus from each house. So that will give you which is the house where you will get the pleasure of life, and what is the kind of pleasure you will get. Explained to you about Venus with Rahu and Venus with Ketu. And an important aspect is the exaltation, the debilitation sign of Venus. Venus is debilitated in Virgo. When Venus is debilitated in Virgo, Virgo has this habit of keeping things to itself and hoarding things, the Virgo sign has this habit of hoarding and keeping things, which is not akin to Venus. Venus does not like. Venus likes to give, it likes pomp, it likes show, it likes lifestyle, it likes love, it likes relationship, it likes going out. So that is not what Venus likes. So Venus rightly feels scuttled in this house and is debilitated there. Whenever Venus is in the house of pieces, there it is. Actually, you should not think Venus in pieces will give you too much of luxuries. When Venus enters pieces, it is like a person has enjoyed life so much and mentally he's so satisfied with it that he moves into the realm of the subconscious mind, into the higher realms of life, because Venus itself is also like Guru. I mean, Shukracharya is a very powerful saint. So whenever Venus is in pieces, the buddhi becomes Buddha. It's the last thing of Venus is the last sign. If you look at pieces, the last part of it is ruled by a Mercury. So the buddhi becomes Buddha there. And that is what happens when Venus is in pieces. So it may not be very good for wealth. When you say Venus in pieces, I've got an exalted Venus, it's great, one should get a lot of wealth, he should have love, he should relation. Everything opposite will happen, because this is how the debilitation, exaltation was done. It was not done on the basis of today's thing, Kali Yuga, but it was done that, at that time it was spirituality, it's understanding, buddhi getting elevated to such a high level that you become Buddha. So that is where Venus is exalted in Pisces. As far as Kali Yuga is concerned, I would feel Venus, whenever it's debilitated, gives good results. In the normal sense of things, it may not make that person enjoy life, but that person becomes very practical. He becomes more understanding. He becomes more applied in his mind. Application is very good. So he tends to, by partnerships, by relationships, by means of mutual funds and banking system, he's able to, as a consultant, he's able to gain and make more money. It is not so much of pleasure that way. So Venus debilitation should be understood in this aspect, which I have told you just a few moments ago. Venus, I've seen, doesn't give. Whenever the Jupiter-Venus dasha comes, the results will not be good. Whatever may be Jupiter, whatever may be Venus, they may be the best placed, everything will be best, but Jupiter-Venus will create tussles in life for you, because these two planets are not akin. They're two sides. They're two separate sides. One is all about the Sur, that is the Devas, and Venus is all about Asur. They are representing the different energies in the system. These mythological stories are to explain you the energies, that explaining you the different energies in the system. So whenever this Jupiter Venus comes, it really does not give good results. It will create a kind of a tussle. Similarly, Venus and Saturn, though very, very good friends, but whenever the dasha of Saturn is there and Venus Antar is there, it will not give good results, because Saturn says that, okay, let's forget everything. Venus says, let me enjoy it. Similarly with Venus and Saturn, you have to see, again, I've explained you that very important concept, which is in front and which is the back. So that would modify the results in case of Saturn and Venus. So though being friends, they इनका जो nature है दोनों का इतना अलग है, that though they are friends, and their friendship, I've also explained you why they are friends, because once Venus enjoys, it says, Saturn, now you take over life. So in that way they are friends, but they are not really, really in terms of the nature, in terms of the characteristics, in terms of various other things, they don't look eye to eye. So Saturn में Venus की अंतर या Venus में Saturn का अंतर is not very great. It again creates a kind of issues, tussles, throws problems into life. So this is what is Venus is all about. And Venus, I've tried to explain you, the Venus as a planet, Venus in conjunction, Venus in houses, Venus with planets, and Venus as in Kartatva. So these are the 4 or 5 aspects of Venus which are very critical, and which one should always keep in mind while doing astrology. This is it. Thanks. Bye for now. Whenever I get time, I'll make another video. You can write to me. All my email ID, etc. are down, and I'll try to reply. Thanks for watching my video. Bye for now.